This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through military broadcast talk. Hey, everybody, welcome. Today is Saturday, April 25th, year of our Lord, 2025. Yep, folks, I've had another golf to Mike day, and, I've really been enjoying my journey and getting ready for the VA Golden Games this summer in Tampa. Some big thanks to my very dear friend, Jose Flores, who hosts the Motivated Mindset, the show right after mine. And he said, hey, Eva, because he was in it last year. He said, Eva, you got to do this. So I went full throttle and signed up for 5 different sports. So y'all been watching me post about my, let's see, I think I've posted about the powerlifting, and I'll be at the gym probably Monday morning, maybe tomorrow. We'll see what the weather's like, but and I've been working on my official handicap. So I've officially played the 54 holes now. It's not the handicap I want, but it's a good starting place. Played better today than I did Monday, not as good as I did Saturday, but like I said, it's a starting place. And then I went shopping for a bow today. Didn't buy anything yet. You got to start somewhere. So I'm just enjoying the journey with the sports and everything. But that's I want to say, you have to learn what are you good at. And when I got out of the military, life had some transition and things. When I always talk about the From Pain to Purpose radio show, we have, the way I look at pain, we have 4 different pillars of pain, just like sitting in a chair, got 4 legs. It's the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And sometimes your vocation, it has a lot to do with those first 3 or maybe even the 4th one, right? Because when you get out of the military, you have to figure out, well, what am I going to do with life now? And I struggled with that, believe it or not. So yes, I was a paralegal in the JAG Corps in the Army. And when I got out, they didn't want to recognize that I had any legal experience whatsoever. I mean, I did court martials. I did the whole crim law side of things, did admin law side of things, did some legal assistance, wills and power of attorneys, that kind of thing. But they didn't want to recognize that I had any legal experience whatsoever, and that was very defeating when you get out and you thought that you had selected a career that would make a great transition when you get out of the military, only to have, not been seen that you had any experience whatsoever. And that was kind of crushing, because where do you go from there? I did manage to get a couple of jobs with some IT companies and got laid off twice, both from Lucent Technologies and Avaya. That was a bad tech industry world of things. And then was unemployed. I, went into the self-employment side of things with my second husband. And then that was where the whole construction industry went boom. Well, bust, I should say. We lost everything until I went into the voc rehab program. And I've talked about doing that before, tapping into my education. I swear, God has, and I'm not swearing on God. I promise you that God is the one who said, you know what, Eva, go back to school. And I was very fortunate to I am a VA success story through the voc rehab program. And because I had no income for a couple of years, zero income. And when I got my education, that started opening my doors. When I got my bachelor's in business administration, and I started applying to jobs. And I focused on the federal government. I only put out 8 resumes. And, if you talk about the odds of what things were looking like in 2008, in the career world of things, I put out 8 resumes, and I had 1 interview with the ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which falls under DHS, Department of Homeland Security. I was an 1102 contract specialist. Started out as a GS7, and fortunately, it was a tiered position, and my guest is gonna go into that. But that opened a whole set of doors for me and security for me and my family. So I got to talking with one of my commuter bus buddies. Y'all know that I have been sharing my commuter life journey on my social media on the Facebook side of things, because I have, now this increased commute time that I hadn't planned on before. And so, anyways, Robert Odom. Let me go ahead and introduce you guys. Robert Odom is, let me get this over on the screen where I can read. He's currently in his second term as the chapter president and steward with the National Treasury Employee Union, NTEU. And they represent about 1,700 bargaining unit employees in the National Capital Region. Has a budget that he manages with the board. I think during my conversation with him on the bus, his father is a veteran, so very much, someone who champions what us as veterans do and in the federal government, and how do we help. My whole point in making sure we brought him on, because there are a lot of people who are looking for, what do they do? How do they make the transition from the civilian workforce? From the military into the civilian workforce. What are the advantages, and how do we navigate that? I have some of my own learned experiences, some I want to say missteps, but really just didn't get the information that I wished I'd had when I woulda, coulda, shoulda done things. But there were other aspects that I was able to learn, and maybe we'll talk about that as well. So let me go ahead and bring Robert on.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Hey,
Right.
Robert. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Eva.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm a military brat. My father served 22 years in the Navy, and after that, he worked on his education. Uh, he joined the Navy at 17, so basically he had to go and go through finish up high school, GE, GED, and then
Right.
bachelor's in business, and worked on a master's, and he then uh, was working with the federal government as a civil employee with U.S. Customs, and he did 18 years of that, so 40 years of service to
Wow.
country, uh, and uh, and we're going to talk about some of the things that when you're talking about your job experience in the military. This is what I would tell anybody is that one of the things that you definitely want to look at is your military occupational series,
Yeah.
and what that's all about, what your position's all about, because that's what you need to then translate into the civil world, into if you're going to go into the federal government, you need to go on to opm.gov. There's the position and classifications section there, and you're going to look for the classification of positions, and they'll go by job series. So like the administrative are 300 series, law enforcement 1800, sciences you're going to have in the 400s, and so on. Procurement and acquisition is going to be in the 1100s, and those are just a couple of examples that you want to look at, because you can compare your MOS with the job occupational series in the federal government, to then work on your resume. And now it's a little easier but harder, because you want to sell yourself, and you only have 3 pages for your resume now.
Two.
That's what
Two pages.
OPM. Uh, it's maximum three. So,
Really? But
yeah,
they've just telling us 2 pages.
yeah. So this is what I will tell anybody is, one, if you go into the private sector, you definitely want to have like an introduction letter, what you're all about, summarizing all the experience and knowledge that you have in a page. And then you're going to have your 3 page or so resume. And then at the end, you're going to have, your, re- those people that you want to be asked, who you are, what you're all about, your references, that would be like a separate thing. So in a way it's like 5 pages total, but the resume is only about three, and that started about last year or so. So it makes it very hard, because you have to limit yourself to about maybe 5 years or so of your career. And
Yeah.
if you served multiple terms in the military, tours, that could be difficult. And so you have to, again, go back to your MOS, look at the language that is there and how you can translate that into your resume based off the OPM classification. So that way, it's a little easier, and it should help you also with the private sector, because that's one thing that's been difficult for a lot of federal employees over the last year or so. There's been a lot of departures from the federal government, either retirements because they received the offer for the voluntary early retirement, or
Right.
the voluntary incentive program, VSIP,
Yep.
um, and all that. The DRP, which is another ball of wax, because basically that's like resigning from the federal government. And if you just started out, you maybe have 3, 5 years in, and you're relatively young, you could probably translate that into going into the private sector or something else. But you also have to look at where you are,
Right.
because obviously in the national capital region, uh, there's a lot more competition, because you have a lot more federal employees that you're competing with.
Right.
So you have to look at where the industry is, where you're working with, and things like that.
Well, one of the things that I saw too, it's always good to have a couple of different versions of your resume, especially if you're trying to market yourself across a couple of different career fields. That is one way to help yourself, and the same thing for your cover letter that can, help navigate the things that you may have done as a volunteer to help get some of the credit, to tie in for the position you're looking for, just trying to help explain it, but don't forget that even your volunteer time for, well, let's say you work on a board, you're with a nonprofit and you have some, board
Hmm.
experience leading things, that stuff counts as well, but it's all about how you communicate it.
That's definitely true.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I highly recommend is that you not use cookie cutter versions of your resume or the intro letter, because again, what you want to do is you want to look at the vacancy announcement or the job opportunity announcement that on say USA Jobs or Monster or Indeed or any platform where jobs are announced. Is you want to read that announcement. You want
right.
to see what is being asked, what experience, what education, because again, not everything is a PhD,
Right.
not everything is an MBA or a master's in arts. If you have say maybe an associate's degree, uh, that might be your ticket. It's not like you
Yeah.
have to have advanced education. And I say that for more like in the technical aspects of things, because in the trades, if you're going to be going into being an electrician or being a mechanic or being a plumber, you don't need to have a bachelor's or a master's or higher for that. But you have to know how to sell yourself.
But
And that's where,
you may need the certificate of,
yes,
whatever
definitely, you want to have
licensing
those.
that you require
Hmm.
for that role.
Yes.
Yeah,
And definitely want to have those because those are going to back you up. Years of experience also help, because say you don't necessarily have the education, but the experience will help. And there's definitely, I mean, you want to look at your education opportunities too. It's not like you stop, going through education. That's something that you look in the military. If you want to promote from, say, an E3 to E5, well, definitely you have to have some training or
right.
education to get there. Same thing. You want to go from E5 to E6 all the way up to E8. Like my
There's
father,
always training. Yeah.
yeah, you
There's
have to have that. And that goes the same with the federal government. I started out as a GS5 back in 1990 as a customs inspector. I, before that, was working at a radio station while I was studying for my business administration degree. And I got called. At that time, I was earning around 15 grand a year at the radio station, and I got called by the agency. Hey, we'll pick you up as GS5, and that's starting at 21 grand plus. At that time, they had it was overtime, night differential, and other benefits. It's like I jumped at it,
right.
and knowing what I was getting into because my both my parents were federal employees. My mom was an adjudications officer in the VA. My dad with U.S. Customs, and that's basically been my life. My wife works with Health and Human Services. I have a cousin with the IRS. I got my sister-in-law with HHS and NIH. So I got family, across the federal government, and that's the thing. If you have family and friends who can guide you
Yeah,
to get to where you want to be. And again, sometimes it's not a good fit. That's why you always have to have a plan. And that's, think of it this way. You get into a job, you got the foot in the door, three to
exactly.
five years, 3 to 5 years. And if you're going in under the general schedule pay system, the way that it's set up, that you got steps 1 through 10. By step 5, you should already have been looking at where your next move is.
Yep.
You should be looking at that next promotion. And the reason I say that, for example, as a Customs and Border Protection officer now, uh, basically you get in as a GS5 or 7, and you go up to Journeyman 12. And then after that, after a year, you can say, well, hey, with all this experience that I have, I should qualify for a GS13, or maybe then after that, 14. Uh, and then you can decide if you want to go into, being upper management, GS 15 and above. Or maybe it's pay banding. That's another thing that you have to look at, if it's GS or if it's pay banding,
Yeah.
which is completely different. I mean, there's some similarities, but you don't have the steps. Do you get pay increases every year or so? You can. But you always got to look at every 3 to 5 years, what is the next thing I want to do? And
Yeah.
maybe that's it's education. It could be temporary duty assignments. It could be volunteering for, special events, and things like that. In my career, I've done things like, I've been on the anti-terrorism team. I've been on contraband enforcement. I've done passenger enforcement. And what you do is, those are things that you add to your resume.
Right.
And maybe you did something on the side. Maybe you had a side gig that you were volunteering, to maybe, in go into coaching, or going into, maybe you're in a not-profit organization and you're volunteering time. Those things do have value.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. You want to show that you know how to work with people. You need to show that you are not staying behind on the technology, because that's one thing now more than ever with
Oh
AI.
yeah.
If you're
Especially.
saying never, if you're saying never
Or
AI,
some innovation, some kind of innovation
oh
space
yeah, and I've
makes.
seen, and this is the thing, the constant is always going to be change.
Yep.
Nothing is stagnant especially in the federal government. You're going to see that there's always some new initiative coming around every 3 to 5 years or so. And you got to be on your toes to make sure that you're ahead of the game, because that's what's going to help you get to the next position. And what I say about, I've gotten to the point. My plans are to retire next year after 37 years in the federal government. I've been working since I was 14, but in the federal government, that's 30. It's 37,
Yeah.
and that's a good. That's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to talk about in that sense is, early on, what you want to do is invest in yourself. And that means, I talked about educating, getting trained, opportunities and stuff like that. But also, if you are transitioning from the military to the civil service, you want to make sure that if you have been investing in yourself with the thrift savings plan, that you continue to do so. Roll that over to civil service TSP, and in very similar concepts. You know that in the civil service, that if you invest 5% of your income, the federal government is going to match
They match
that.
it.
So that's
Yeah.
10%. And you definitely want to maximize. Because remember, if you're going to traditional TSP, be it the G fund, F fund, C, S, and I, uh, which I recommend that you do a little bit of an equation of,
Yeah.
maybe
You don't
about,
ever put your eggs all in one basket.
yeah,
You want to
you
mix it
definitely
up.
don't want to keep everything in the G fund, because the G fund is the most conservative. The F fund is another form of bonds. It's just basically, it's the market bonds. Your C, your common stock. Your S is going to be kind of like your small business type, and then your international. And if you've been following the markets lately, the international's been doing pretty good. The S has been doing okay. The C is the one is getting back there again. But you want to definitely work on that, and you also want to look at other options like the lifestyle funds. Those basically is that you're planning out. Say, I want to, my plans are to retire in 20 years. I got maybe maybe I got 8 years in the military, and I'm gonna, after I get, if I buy back my military service time, to add that into the federal employee retirement system, to add up to say 20 or 30, and we're going to talk about the qualifications, but
Yeah.
you want to make sure that when you get to the point that you say, you know what, I want to retire, I want to enjoy life, I want to leave at a good age, and that's usually in the civil service is 57, the minimum retirement age, uh, and
I
30
meet
years of
that. I
service.
meet it.
And if not, if you're say 20 years in and 60, and say you got in late into the federal service, then it would be 62 and 5. The reason for that, and probably for military, it's not so much concern, because if you're military and you got TRICARE, you probably say, you know what, I don't need federal employee health benefits. But it's always good to know that you have that. If you do take the federal employee health benefits, that's the 5 years. That's why they that
Yeah.
62 and 5. Uh, and the thing about federal employee health benefits is that you have a choice every year to say this one particular provider is not working for you and you want to change, you have the open season. Know that if you have a change, say you had a divorce and you want to bump your former spouse off, you can do that throughout the year. At the moment, that's a significant life event. You
Right.
have that. Uh, but know those things, and that's the good thing about when you're putting in for a job with the federal government. You want to study the agency, the department, and the agency that you're going into. I can tell you that U.S. Customs Border Protection, being a law enforcement agency, a lot of veterans gravitate to this to the agency. Be it the Border Patrol. I see a lot of Marine Corps, some Army. Where I'm at with field operations, the officers, you're going to see a lot more Army, Navy, Air Force. Uh, in the air and marine, you got a lot of air interdiction. You got a lot of, if you're an say a
There's a lot of
helicopter mechanic.
corresponding
Yeah, so
job
what
skills
yeah,
with
so you want to
DHS.
see what's a
Yeah.
good fit for you, and you
Because
want
the
to
part of
learn,
it's the
hey,
culture.
what
The culture is
yes, and that's what I wanted to get at, is in regards to
yeah.
culture. For example, uh, we have a chaplain program, we have a peer support program, we have the veteran support program. That's key for any veteran, anyone who's serving in the military, to know that the department or the agency that you're going to has those programs, so that you don't have to rely on going to the VA
Yeah.
alone, that that you have somebody who's going to be your advocate, to help you. And for the same matter, the reason I say, taking advantage of resources like chaplain and peer support is because, this is a rough job. If you're a border patrol agent, you're in the middle of nowhere for long hours, middle of the night. Probably it's really hot, or it's really cold if you're in the northern border. If you're out on the water, boat operator, or on a team on a boat, that's long hours on the water. I tell you, I used to travel with the Marine interdiction agents back in my day, to go to point A to point B. And after a while, it definitely gets old, because your knees are hurting, your kidneys are hurting, your back is hurting. So it's like, yeah, I like the job that I do, and I've been able to finagle that through my career, to do things, basically getting into program management,
Yeah.
to further. I was part of the team that revamped the officer basic training, uh, and very satisfied with that. It was all task based, to make sure that everything was covered. Uh, I've managed programs on leadership development. I've managed programs on uh, training of military personnel. If you've been an MP or SP if you're in the Navy. You've probably heard of Customs Border Clearance Agent. And Customs Border Clearance Agent is basically is doing the customs duties at the AOR. And why do we have that? It's kind of like a pre-clearance. We want to
Hmm.
make sure that it's as easy as possible that when you get stateside, that it's like thank you for your service. Go decompress and be able to get back to your family and get ready for the next deployment.
Right.
Uh, Not have to go through all the hassles of making long lines and going and picking up luggage and all that stuff. You want to make you want to do that when you're uh on back at home base on the tarmac. You got you got all your equipment in duffel bags and all that stuff there. That when you're ready to go home, that you're able to go home as fast as possible. Uh, I've been involved in with the labor management side of things for about 8 years now, and I really enjoy that. And that's something that a lot of people uh, kind of don't focus on in their careers because when you're dealing with personnel issues, uh, in my case as a steward for the union, we help people navigate. There's things like reasonable accommodation. One of the first things that you need to know when you're requesting a reasonable accommodation for a disability that you have is one, did you let the agency know that you have a disability? That should be early on in the process. Say you have 40%, maybe you're 100% disabled veteran.
Right.
You want to let your agency know, because that will help you in the long run. That if you need to say you're having issues with PTSD, and that's something that is invisible, because until PTSD happens, people may not know that you have PTSD.
Right.
And I can say that my father, having been a boiler technician in the Navy, he had PTSD before it was even known that what was PTSD, because the technology's changed. We're now more nuclear and diesel for our Navy vessels. But back in the day was you had boilers, and if water hit one of those boilers, that was really bad news. So I
Yeah.
understood early on that say there was a storm coming and there was maybe a leak in the house. Well, guess what? My father was not doing too well. So you want to communicate that and work with your VA healthcare providers to get the documentation that if you're having an episode of PTSD, that you have the flexibility of maybe not having to make your way into work that day on time, that you have flexi tour, or maybe you have the ability to work from home, telework. Those things help. Maybe due to the circumstances, maybe you have migraines, because that's something that obviously can happen through
I get them all the
military.
time. Yeah, I
And
get
may,
migraines all the time.
and you're taking your medication for that, and by it takes maybe an hour or two before it kicks in and helps you manage the day. Uh, Same thing with if you have bouts with depression. You want to make sure that you're getting your help, and that's where again the chaplains, the peer support, the veteran support program. Uh, the federal government has the employee assistance program. A lot of people don't take advantage of that, and it's sad because EAP not only helps you in regards to getting you therapy sessions if you need those, and that I think they've gone up to 20 sessions a year.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's legal services. We have care for, say, if you're taking care of a parent, or you're taking care of a child, and suddenly you're given orders that you need to travel for a detail or an assignment. Then they can help you get, say, for example, kenneling for your pet, or maybe child care for your child, or maybe it's a visiting nurse to take care of your parent. And those are the things that I think that U.S. Customs and Border Protection has done very well. And again, because of the nature of our jobs, it's a godsend.
I wanna I
Sadly,
wanna
mhm,
tap
mhm,
into
yeah.
the childcare thing because that was one of the things that really, really helped me when I was a young and employee with ICE when I had first got out. Sorry, when I first started working for
Mhm.
ICE, they had a really great childcare assistance program. And for a lot of the young soldiers that are getting out, and you've got young children, and you're trying to figure out how do you go and work for the federal government, all of these federal agencies or departments have a child care assistance program. Most of them are income based. And by that, I mean, so I started out as a GS7 with ICE, and they had the program set up where they pay a portion of your child care based upon your pay. So because I was a lower grade, they paid more of the child care for my kids, and as I got promoted to GS9 and as 11, I think about so I had gone from ICE to GSA to HUD. They had a different scale at each of those agencies on how much they paid, how much a percentage, but it was still income based. That was a huge thing that helped me out, with my youngest 2 because they were young when I started working, and, so I was very fortunate that the way ICE designed it, they you had to pay a little bit more throughout the year, the school ye well, when they were little, it was the same amount all year long, but as they went into school, they you had to pay more out of pocket, but they paid more during the summer for that full-time care. GSA changed theirs up a little bit, and you still had to pay more during the summer, but HUD, was a little bit different, and I wasn't on it too long because I got the promotion. I really liked the way ICE had it set up for paying more of that summer schedule because that was the most expensive compared to the after-school care. I just wanna make sure that folks know that there are options out there if you feel like, you're getting out of the military and you need to be able to get back employed again, don't think that an option isn't available with the federal government because it is.
And definitely. And
Yeah.
we were talking before the show about the public transit incentive program. That's another
Exactly. Yeah.
help because basically the federal government really pushes for employees to use public transit to get to work. Now, that depends on your occupation, that depends on where you're working, but you definitely want to inquire about that because. Uh, that's money that you save. That's money that you can use for other things. And it makes it a little easier. So if you are coming in at the lower pay bands or at the lower GS rates, know that these are helpful. And it's something that can help you in your decision as to putting in for federal employment. And maybe in the private sector they have something similar, but that again, you got to look at again, like I said earlier, look at the vacancy announcement or the job opportunity announcement. Study the agency. If you go to any of the agencies in the federal government, you can see they'll have a section that's called for careers, and they'll tell you what the jobs are all about. They'll tell you the benefits and things like that, and that
Some of them
way
pay
you go in.
relocation assistance, some of them don't.
Mhm.
Some if you go to the OPM website, then you can also see what are the critical hiring the critical what's they have a special section for those that are critical hiring.
Yeah, and usually
Uh,
it's for the hard to fill
yeah.
positions. And I'd say, for example, in my world, in U.S. Customs Border Protection, it'll be at like ports of entry that are remote. We have a few of those in the southwest border. We have a few of those in the northern border. And same thing with Border Patrol. If you put in for a job with the Border Patrol, they have
Eh,
incentives.
MJ
Uh,
saying hi. Sorry, she's one of our
all
other
right,
hosts. Shout out to
all
MJ.
right. So those are things that you want to look at. If there's incentives, hiring incentives, or there are retention incentives. For example, in the line of business that I come up from, they have the foreign language award program. So if you have, say, if you know a language like Tagalog or Farsi or Arabic, that could be used, especially in the anti-terrorism mission. That's something that you could get up to 5% of your basic pay each year. And those are things that you want to look at when you're studying for the job. In my job history, I put in for jobs for like I did the criminal investigator test. I did the air traffic controller. Uh, I failed miserably on that because I wasn't really. I mean, I studied business and I knew about the customs stuff. Uh, and I'm kind of glad I didn't get into air traffic control because I have family and friends who've been in with the FAA and all that, and it's rough. It's
Yeah.
very grueling, very stressful. I'm hoping that I was talking earlier about AI and technology, that with the new upgrades of technology, it'll make it a lot easier for air traffic controllers. But you got to look at what is the good fit for you and make a plan. Uh, and
But
that,
it also might be a
yeah.
good time to pivot if maybe you need to or want to change your career. Know that if you are pivoting, that you may have to start lower or equal, and you're not going to automatically jump up into a higher grade. I think one of the
Mhm.
biggest things that I've seen, especially for senior NCOs and officers, is that they think that they're going to lateral over and wear their rank on their collars in the civilian sector, and that's not true. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna bust your ego on that one. You need to humble yourself and know that it is different in the federal workforce. I think the biggest challenge that I had personally, because I'm just, Army high speed, low drag, was that I had to put a little more drag into my work ethic, which was, I wanna say I took on those additional tasks because you get your coworkers who don't like how high speed you are, and you've gotta, you get bored. If you're too productive on your work, then I'd have to go find other things to do, but not really talk about it, and, you know, I might my boss would know, but it's a culture issue, you know, that we, as veterans, were kind of bred to mission, getting things done, and the civilian workforce has been kind of, "It's alright, slow down a little bit, Nelly, it's okay."
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. It was a bit of a transition for me coming from the field to work at headquarters, and I had to learn early on. There's something called hurry up and wait.
Yeah,
Because especially when you're dealing with policy issues or programs, uh, you have a lot more people involved, and it's not like in the field that you get things done.
right.
Uh, and uh, and you have to follow procedure. You have to follow policy because if not, you're going to get in trouble. You can't cut corners. For example, in procurement, you got to make sure that you're doing things the right way because sooner or later you're going to have somebody doing an audit. That could be
Well,
the
yes.
inspector general. That could be the GAO, the Government Accountability Office,
Or the
and you want to,
IG.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at, is that
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you did things the right way. You followed policy. You followed the law and the rule and regulation on things, because sooner or later it's going to come back, and it could bite. It could be even a career ender.
For
So you
sure.
want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And sometimes there's just a lot of things that are outside of your control. I'll give you this. For example, policy. You're thinking, hey, it's just going to impact my component. No, it may impact various components, and they all have a say on that. And
Right.
then it goes into what I call a possible black hole, uh, which is counsel. The lawyers have to review it, and you're thinking that's going to be a quick turnaround, and it takes months. And you're like, "What's going on? Why isn't it moving?" Oh, because the person who was actually reviewing it left, and now
Yeah.
it's in a drawer somewhere, and they got to start from scratch. And that's one thing right now that I can tell you, uh, as a union rep. uh, I've been involved with going to Congress to talk to my members of Congress about federal employee needs, and advocating for pay equality, because the federal workforce tends to be about 23-24% behind the private sector. But when you look at the with the benefits and the other things,
It
uh,
adds up. It
yeah,
does,
yeah.
you know.
Now it would be nice if we got, for example, say a 4% raise, but then you got your healthcare premiums going up maybe 5 or 6. So it's like, ugh. But what I get at is that uh, there's a lot of things that are in your control. There's a lot of other things that are outside your control, and that's what you need to always consider. Don't get frustrated because things are taking longer than you wanted them to. You want to get on a plan. I know that especially is for program managers and management program analysts and project managers, because again, you want to get things moving.
Right.
But that's where you learn how uh, to brief up, and you let your upper managers know, hey, this is what's going on, and they should be advocating for you to get things moving. And
There are
so,
two
mhm,
things that we wanna make sure we cover real fast because,
sure.
one of the things is leave, the leave
Hmm.
accumulation that
Oh
I
yeah.
think is very is a great perk, especially for us that come from the military. I was very fortunate that I only had 12 years when I came over to the federal government, 12 years military time
Hmm.
that I ended up buying back. My colleagues, this is like a two-part thing that you can run with both of them. So one is that the leave side of things, the 4, 6, and 8 hours,
Hmm.
to address, and the other thing is the military buyback. That was the one that I had the delay on buying my time back, but once I got that bought in, I mean, I had to pay a little bit more interest than what I shoulda, coulda done if I had known when I first came on as a federal employee, but in some ways, it was actually okay because I was just a GS-7, and that would have been a big chunk of money to have, paid in then with and the interest was really pretty minimal. But now, I've got 27 years in, actually 28. I have 28 years in
All
now.
right. So
I'm
yeah,
on that downhill
yeah,
side like
I'm gonna
you are.
go yeah, I'm gonna go down that path to explain that, and I'm gonna probably tack this on too. One of the things you got to look at in the job announcement is the probationary period,
Yes.
because most of the jobs are 2 years of probation, and that's something you would definitely want to make sure that you overcome. And that transitions over to, you have what's called career conditional.
Mhm.
When you start out, for the first 3 years of your federal career, you're going to be career conditional, and you're going to accumulate 4 hours of annual leave, 4 hours of sick leave. Once you pass
Every
the
pay
three
period.
years, yes, and and once you pass the 3-year marker of your EOD, your entrance on duty date, your scheduled computation date for leave, then you go to category 6. And category 6 means that you go up from 4 hours of pay period to 6 hours of pay period for annual leave. You continue throughout your career 4 hours for sick leave. Uh, and then again, there's other leaves. I mean, there's if you're say a reservist or you're a National Guard, know that you have military leave.
Yep.
So it's very good to know about the USERA. The for active, if you get activated, you want to make sure that you present your orders, and you should be able to say you're on active duty. You should be able to get back to your job, and that's something that we haven't really seen much since the sunsetting of Iraq and Afghanistan. But in in the current realities, there's a lot of people that are being called up to serve for the Iran campaign. So it's always good to know that when you're activated, you're presenting your military orders to your management and all that, and you have military leave, and you have a right to go back to the job that you were in before you deployed. Uh, and then there's admin leave. That's another thing, say you want to donate blood, there most of the policies you get like 4 hours for that. Jury duty, you get admin leave. So there's various things that you have to look at in the leave policy for the agency that you're putting in for. And then once you make it to 15 years in service, then you go to category 8, which means that you're getting 8 hours of annual leave each pay period. And the reason for that, you say, well, why is that? Well, as you get older, and you know this, if you once you hit 40, the body doesn't function the same. It's not like, if you're a paratrooper in your 20s and you start doing the same thing in your 40s, your body's going to really feel it, right?
But the cool
Uh,
thing they have is the veteran sick leave as well, that they
yes.
started a couple of years ago. When you first come on, they give you, I think it's a bank of sick leave that doesn't count against you, right?
Yes, and that's something that I know they've tried to translate that into the employee paid leave, but that hasn't become law yet. New parents do have the paid parental leave, which is kind of
Right,
like an extension of the Family and Medical Leave Act, which is also
right,
good to know about if you have chronic illness or you have an immediate family member of your household. Know that you have that option, which is the Family and Medical Leave Act, FEMLA.
right.
So there's a lot of things, and I know we're talking about a lot of things here, but it's always good to study these because when you go in knowing what you're getting into and knowing your benefits and knowing your rights, those expectations turn to be fruitful because you want to make this into possibly a career that a second career. If you've
Yeah,
served multiple terms in the military and then you're transitioning to civil service, you want to make sure that you have the bang for the buck. So when you do decide to retire from the civil service, you say, I have served so many years. I've proudly served this country, and I have all these benefits. I have my robust TSP, my Social Security, my federal employee retirement system benefits, and
yeah.
whatever other investments you have. If you decide you want to go into government bonds or you want to go into crypto, I mean, that's something that is your decision to make and how you want uh to preserve your income until you're in old age. That could be you plan it out. Say your family can last on average until their 80s. Well, hey, you want to make sure that you have enough money to live comfortably into your 80s.
Right.
And say you want to have, want to set your beneficiaries. Who's gonna live your legacy? You're not going to leave your family behind without anything. Uh,
And they
you want
even
to make
have
sure that they're well
education.
off.
There's even education, benefits that they have too. I mean,
Oh
I know
yes,
as federal, as military, you've got the GI Bill, but there many of the agencies, if you've had to take on a loan to get your education, they
yes.
have that as well.
You have the student loan repayment program. You got to
Yeah.
you can check out on that. There's also the tuition assistance program that you can find out. Usually is that you are studying something that is going to reap benefits to the employer,
That,
to your agency.
yeah.
And that includes, for example, continuing education, because you got to maintain certification. Say you're a CPA, say you're a lawyer or a paralegal, say you're a chemist, or
Because they
you're a
got to get those
therapist.
CEUs and all of that stuff.
Yes,
Engineering, I think, is one of them,
yes.
to maintain the certification. If your position requires that level of expertise,
Hmm.
they can help repay
And that's
that.
one thing that the agency will pay for. I know, for example, NTEU, we also have, so for example, a lot of these programs go through like the Becker Institute, for like the CPAs and sort, and it's at a discount. So you get the member benefit discount there, that you can take advantage of. In addition to, if, say, the agency can't pay everything, because again, we got to deal with funding issues in the current reality. So you want to make sure that you reap all the benefits that you can, so you can be a productive and happy federal employee, and know that you have the support that you need to be able to be successful through your career.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. I know we've covered a lot of ground, and I hope that for anybody that's out there looking at the federal government as an option, I think this is a great opportunity. From what I've been able to see on USA Jobs, the vacancies are being posted way more frequently. And, it's now that the budget had gotten passed for all the other departments except for DHS, they are starting to post those out there. So if the civilian market is not looking so hot, look at the federal government, usajobs.gov. I tell you, it has been a lifesaver for me and my family to have made this kind of transition. It has served us very well. And thank you so much again, Robert, for coming on.
My
And
pleasure.
anyways, so thank you guys. I am going to pop up my screen now for coming up Carly Gaddell, and I had her information up earlier. Let me see if I can pull it up again. Let's see. Uh, yeah, I'm saying it right. Carly is the CEO for Plus One Heroes, and she's on the spouse side of things. And she's really running a neat nonprofit that I think, from what I've been able to watch and observe, it has started from her heart and she's impacting lots of other people. Daryl Hartley, my co host that is normally with me on Mondays with the Revivalist radio show, is going to join me on the 9th. I'm pretty sure we're tagged on that date, but that date may change. And I have another guest that's coming up in June. So if you want to come up and be a guest on my show, the calendar is open through the end of May and the first week of June. The 13th is when I have my next guest scheduled after that. And it'll be an exciting conversation as well. Military sexual trauma is the topic of the day, June 13th. So thank you guys for joining us. And y'all have a very blessed day. And here with MBR on the From Pain to Purpose radio show, we are giving veterans a voice. Y'all have a great week. See you Monday on the Revivalist radio show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.